Today's tutorial was inspired by one of the students in my wire jewelry class in Montreal a couple of weeks ago. She wanted to make some spirals into a bracelet and a matching ring. What you're going to need for this project is 16 gauge wire. This is the artistic copper wire. You're going to need round pliers, cutters, flat pliers. I have a ring mandrel, a ruler. I have another ring cone that I use to make the spirals, and I'm using 6mm miracle beads. So I have a 7-inch piece of 16 gauge wire and my plastic ring cone. I'll link this up in the description below. And we want to hold it with our thumb on the cone and just wind it around until we get to the top. This is my preferred way to make spirals. So you can just adjust it and just twist it around until you've gone all the way around and you've made a kind of a spiral cone. From there, you want to cut this end flush so it's straight, and then flip it over and do the same over here so it's a straight cut. And then we want to start like pushing down the spiral so it becomes more flat. We want to bend this end just in a bit so it'll hold the bead. You need to bend it a little longer than the width of the bead. Take the end like that and just give it a little bit of a bend. It's easier for me to hold it on top. If the bead can't fit in there, just wiggle it up more at an angle. Take your bead. This is a 6mm miracle bead. Stick it on there. These are the needle nose pliers from Xuron. And you're just going to take this and just push the end down so it's flush. And then go ahead and push it right down so this is completely flat. Hold the end and just flick of the wrist, turn it around to close that loop. And you can wiggle this out a bit. You can also do that by hand. It doesn't have to be perfectly even. And then go ahead and just make sure that is flat. Over here too, if this is sticking out, you can push it back and it'll pop sort of flat in place. So if you want to do one without the bead, we're going to do the same thing. You can actually stick your finger in the cone, hold it like this, and then wind it around. Again, cut this flush and that one flush. You don't need as much space for the bead because this one's going to be plain. We're just going to bring this one in and flick of a wrist, just rotate it in. And then we can push it down so it's flat. Get your round pliers and do your loop. And then go ahead with your flat pliers, wiggle it around. If you want to hammer it or flatten it in the rolling mill, now's a good time to do that. To attach them together, you can use jump rings or you can make your own. I like to use these 6-step looping pliers. You can also use your scraps and just make them one at a time. So just twist it around. Twist it slightly beyond what you're going to need because you have to cut it in one place and then flip it around and then cut it flush on the other side so these line up. And then we'll take our flat pliers and we're just going to stick one part of the jump ring in the loop and then the other part at the opposite side here, just in the spiral, and then close it up. And then we're going to keep adding them. Put this one on that side and then the other side in the loop. And I'm alternating bead, no bead, bead. So 6 seems to be enough spirals to fit around my wrist. And at this point you can add a pre-made clasp or you can make your own. For the clasp, I'm going to make it super simple. Just take 3 or 4 inches of wire and do a loop on one end. And then here, we're just going to make a hook. So we're just going to go around here and then take my round pliers. I don't want to cut it just straight or it's going to be sharp. So we're just going to bring this one around to start the loop, and then I'm going to hold this and just give it a good little tug just to close that up. And then we're just going to cut that bit flush, pinch it down, pinch it in so that is closed. We can actually open that up a half turn, stick it in here, close it up. So we have a simple clasp, and then we're just going to put it around our wrist. It just loops into here, and you can always pinch it close so it won't come undone. And there's your funky spiral bracelet. To make the ring, I'm going to take a 12-inch piece of wire and stick the cone in the middle. And we're just going to wind it around. Do a little bit on one side and a little bit on the other. And we're just going to adjust it just to flatten it out. And then we can stick our round pliers in here and just bring this one around because we want the bead to sit in there. So now we can get our 6mm miracle bead. Just stick the bead in there, and we're just going to tighten it up so it's going to stay in there snugly. And then we just push this in to adjust the spirals as you like. And if you have extra wire, we can bring it around a little bit more. And then we'll take our ring cone, a little smaller than what you need for your ring size. We're going to hold it in place and wind it around. You could wind it around twice if you want a thicker band. And we need to secure one side, so we're going to take this side here and wind it in. Take your pliers, bring it through a good little tug to close that loop. Then we'll just cut that flush. Take your flat pliers and give it a bit of a pinch. Make sure the loop is closed, and from there we can adjust it. Move these back and forth so they're more or less flat. And then this end under here, like I said, you could go around twice if you want. Otherwise we can just clip it so it's flush. You can file it if you want. Just make sure there's at least 1/2 inch there so it's not going to come undone. From there we can put it back on the ring cone. You can adjust it so it's more centered. And there you have your funky spiral ring that matches your bracelet.